message to the Rebbetzin.
Okay, hi everyone. So my name is Rachel. I'm going to be asking all the questions for today. Um, Again, we have Rebbetzin Zeno, Rebbetzin Gabrielov, and Rebbetzin Maximov. They're going to answer the questions. So the first question. So the first question is, I'm going to ask you, each of you, to introduce yourselves and say a little bit about yourself, your background, and your personal tznius journey. And if you could share with us something that you struggle with, it's with tznius.
Sure. Hi everyone, my name is Esther Zeno. I became Baal Tshuva when I was 11 and a half years old. My mother inspired me, and also one of my teachers in 6th grade. She actually said something about being a Bat Melech, and I said, like, wow, I want to be a Bat Melech. And I started taking upon myself tzniut, but not like fully. I never wore like tank tops or anything like open and provocative. I always wore like a t-shirt and covered like that, you know. Sweatpants, never jeans. I was like a tomboy. And eventually, like she said those words, Bat Melech, and it just hit my neshama. I used to go to a reform school. My parents didn't realize it was reform because all my cousins were boys. So they would put tefillin, they would daven, they would learn Torah. I was like totally normal till they asked me to read the Torah, and I'm just like, huh? No way, because I'm shy, right? So thank God for my shyness. I go to my mom and I'm like, they want me to read the Torah. She's like, hey, B, we got to take you out, put you in gymnasia, you know? And then over there, I got inspired. It was like an awakening to my soul, and it was actually very interesting, like looking back. It's like many, many years. And I'm just like, wow, like, thank God that school opened up. Like, where would I be? Who knows, right? Who knows where I would be if that school didn't open up. Eventually, as I grew older, I became more and more from. Everything was like gradually. I never took everything like right away. I took baby steps. And I went to school with Leah, and it was senior year, and I asked her, I said, so what are you going to do? You know, which college are you going to go to? She's like, I'm going to seminary. I'm like, huh? What's seminary? Seminary in Israel. I'm like, I also want that, you know, like I also want to learn. So Baruch Hashem, I applied. I had struggles to go to seminary, and we overcame them. We went. I came back like a little Rebbetzin. So that was like my nickname always. It's actually funny. Someone said to my husband, did you make her the Rebbetzin or she made you the rabbi? That was funny. So, Baruch Hashem, so I also went through my journey, my personal journey, and I didn't look at why it was hard. Rather, I looked to find the inspiration to connect to Hashem. When you're in a school where there's no connection to Hashem, like you're learning Chumash, you're learning Torah, but it's not connecting to your soul, I felt like I was in a darkness. Once I went to gymnasia, it's like, she was 18 years old, you know, she's teaching more Fishav, a little Ashkenazi girl, you know, like so excited. And she just said, Bat Melech, and like, boom, to my neshama, like something happened to me. So, Baruch Hashem, I'm here today.
Hi everyone, my name is Eliyahu Maximov. So actually I was Esther's classmate, we graduated together. She ended up going to seminary for the whole year, but I didn't have it so easy. I convinced my parents to let me go. I went there for a month, and then they made me come back home. So it didn't work out the way I expected it to. But Baruch Hashem, you know, Hashem gives you what you need, and I came back. I went to seminary here as well. I came from public school in 5th grade to gymnasium. I was not happy about it. I was very happy in public school. I had friends over there. And that year, the school opened up. Well, the year before it opened up, and my parents were, let's say you're going to a Jewish school. Why do I need a Jewish school? I'm very happy over here. I remember at the interview, the principal was like, so you want to come, right? I'm like, yeah, sure. No, I don't want to come. But I didn't tell her that. So that was the beginning of our journey, but it definitely took me a few years. I remember in 7th grade, we used to make fun of our teachers all the time. They're so weird. They're wearing shaitels on their heads, and they're covering with these weird scarves. And I remember telling my friends, I will never do that. Well, a few years later, so we didn't have intentions. Our parents did not have intentions. They just wanted us to go to a Jewish school, get a background. And then in 8th grade, Mrs. Amanov came, whoever knows Mrs. Amanov, and the school really shifted a lot. She came with like a whole group of teachers, and everything just became very different. And as Esther said, it was a very connective type of learning. We weren't just learning information. We were learning for our life. So finally, around 8th grade, I started slowly being interested. And I remember I did not take up tzniut right away. It was very, very, very gradual. I would only wear a skirt on Shabbat. That was it. Once I got used to that, I started doing it twice a week, 3 times a week. One, that became a habit, which is the most important thing, to make it into a habit. Then I started working on my sleeves, and etc. The hardest thing, I think, was tights. Till this day, I don't like tights, but I wear them. But it's something that I do struggle with emotionally, but I do wear it because I have to type of thing. Maybe one day I'll love it, but I really doubt it. But that's what we do because we have to do it. Then I graduated. So by 10th grade, I was already fully religious. I was keeping everything. And I decided I'm too religious for my school. And I decided I'm leaving. Huh? I decided, yes. So my friends were getting there too. But you know when you're like on a high and you're so excited and you want more. So in my head, all religious people were on a high like me. I didn't know that's how life doesn't work. So I went to this other school, and I didn't do much research into it. I came, and I realized it was just like my school. Also, similar type of girls. I was there for orientation. I came back to my school. And then the next year, I'm like, okay, I made a mistake. I went to the wrong school. Now I'm going to a real Beis Yaakov in Borough Park. I remember my principal sat down with me, had a whole talk. And you know, like when you're in high school, you're like, okay, she's just talking for her own good. She doesn't really care about me. She's just trying to make me stay. So I nodded my head, and I applied to the other school. I went there. I went there for orientation and 2 days of school.
I remember.
Whew. Let's just say it's very, very different. Very different. I learned so much in those 2 days of notes, of information, but there was no connection to my life. I was never in my life bored learning Torah. I love to learn. I used to learn before I went to bed at night all the time by myself, so I didn't understand what's going on. So it took a lot. Well, really, that's not what got me to come back. What got me to come back, and again, it's not all Beis Yaakov, it's not everyone, and my daughters are in a normal school now, my daughter. So one of the teachers, she was there for like 30 years, and she came to class, and she said one year she was teaching Parsha to 12th grade. And she asked the girls, what does the Torah mean to you? So the girls got very insulted. What's the big deal? I don't know. If I asked you that question, you would be very happy to stand here and tell us. But the girl got very insulted. Such a personal question. How could you ask this of us? And one girl started to cry. So at the end of class, she came up to her and she said, why are you crying? So she said to her, because I realized my whole life I've been living a lie. I went to yeshiva my whole life. My parents are religious. The Torah means nothing to me. When I heard that, I was done. So it took a lot of guts to come back to the school that I left 2 times, and I was warned not to leave again. But I came back because that was the right thing to do. But I already made up my mind I'm staying, and Baruch Hashem I did. So I graduated from there very happily, and I realized that it's not just about physical actions. It has to be from the inside out. So we graduated, I went to seminary for a month, came back, continued here. Then I started teaching. I teach now in the same school I graduated from. I think this is my 13th or 14th year. I teach high school, 11th and 12th grade, Mishlei and Megillat Esther. Also, I am a college teacher, thanks to Rabbi Gabrielov. She trained us for a few years already. And my husband and I also give classes. So we give shiurim once a week in Main Street. So if anybody lives there or has anyone, so we have a few girls here who actually come to our classes. And we post up all our classes on Torah Anytime. So if anyone's interested, it's there. It's free, so take it. We're not being charged for any of that. And we actually have a very nice class that I gave. My first class that I gave was about modesty. But it was not halachot at all. No rules. Why do we keep tzniut? What's the purpose? What's the gain? And that's a class that I think everybody needs to internalize, to each their own, on their own level, but it's there, it's accessible, and we're very happy to be here. It's a privilege, it's an honor. I'm so happy everybody came out. It's really cold outside. If I was you, I would be home. So really big yasher koach to everyone, and I hope we gain together and learn from each other. Thank you so much.
Good evening, ladies. First and foremost, I'd like to thank all the organizers, all the sponsors. Thank you so much, whoever you are. Thank you. But most of all, I'd like to thank all the ladies for coming out. I know it's not easy. It's cold, like Leah said, and I would much rather be home with my cup of tea and have an early night. So kol hakavod on coming out. There's no nation like the Jewish nation. You tell me which nation in the world will come out, 8 o'clock, to leave everything behind, to hear the words of Hashem. No, but the Jewish nation cares to know what does Hashem want from us. So kol hakavod to everyone, to organizers, the sponsors, to all of you ladies, for putting the effort to come out tonight. So the question was asked about our background. I was actually 10 when I came, and we came in May, and my parents had a dilemma. What to do? What do we send our kids for the coming up year? So a lot of relatives who came before us told my parents, don't be stupid, send your kids to public school, let them get the best education. I was one of the youngest, by the way, I forgot. So I'm one of the youngest. My older siblings were already so old, like they couldn't go to school. They didn't have to go to school, but myself and my brother were very young. So my parents were told, don't send them to yeshiva, it costs a fortune, they don't teach anything. Send them to public school, they give the best education, so on and so forth. So my parents, they don't know the difference between public school and yeshiva. And interestingly, back in Bukhara, back in Tajikistan, back in Samarkand, one thing that people had value for, and that was modesty. Like modesty was not a new concept for Bukharians. So when my father came and he saw some of the relatives that went to public school and the way they were dressed, the way the girls were dressed, he was appalled. He's like, I don't want my daughter to end up like that. Just because of that, he said, there's no way I'm gonna send my daughter to public school just because of the dress code. It's like, I'm not sending her there. I can't be more grateful to my parents for actually making that key choice, that unbelievable, that moment played such a big role. And they sent me off to yeshiva, and Baruch Hashem, I got inspired. First of all, I do come from a traditional home, so it's not like my parents kept Shabbat traditionally. My mom, my sisters, they're always dressed conservative. Like Baruch Hashem, like it wasn't a completely new concept, but of course, sky's the limit. And I said, when I started going to yeshiva, and I started seeing the real Bet Yaakov teachers and the way they conducted their lives and the way they were dressed, and it wasn't just like conservative, but it was just according to halacha. I was like, wow, like I gotta live up to that. I gotta grow to that, But more than that, I felt that tzniut was just so much more than a dress code. Like the way they conducted themselves, the way they spoke, the way they related, the way they thought about themselves. And I'm like, wow, like I want to be that person. I want to be that person. And slowly, I just started taking on more and more things about myself. We do have a lot of relatives that, traditional, that I'm not going to say they were completely not religious. We were traditional. So we did have mixed weddings. We did have mixed parties. And that was like one of the hardest things I remember, like going to all those mixed events and just watching men and women and dancing. And for the most part, I have to say that it looked like it was fun. But what also moved me was the fact that I saw a lot of drama taking place after those events. And I remember like going to all those weddings, like everyone looks happy and everyone looks like they have it and they're with it and they're having fun, they're enjoying. But then like you hear the stories after the wedding, after the birthday event, and you hear the fights. He looked at her, he didn't take me out to dance, he danced with this aunt, with his cousin, he doesn't care about me, and this husband went out to smoke, and I'm like, such a contradiction. Like, you guys look so happy, but yet so miserable behind the scenes. And that like was a big turnoff for me. And I remember going to my first religious wedding and just watching a bride being the queen, like Mamasha queen. She was on the dance floor, and literally all the guests are performing for her. Everyone's trying to make her happy. If she moves this way, everyone follows her. If she moves this way, everyone. And by non-religious weddings, it's just the opposite, right? The Khatan and Kala, they spend months and months and months on taking classes for the first dance to impress the, to impress the guests, and then they go so much out of their way just to impress the guests. And by religious weddings, it's just the opposite. The bride is the queen, the Khatan, the groom is a king, and everyone dances around them, and everyone is trying to impress them. That was so inspirational. I was like, oh my gosh, like I can't wait. Like when my day will come, I want exactly that for my wedding, Zat Hashem. And slowly, I grew into this mitzvah. And then I sort of went from Kyiv schools for elementary. Then I went to a mainstream Beit Yaakov school, Shevach. This was the only, I would say, the only mainstream school back in my day. And I graduated, and I went to seminary, I went to college, I did become a PA. And then I started, Baruch Hashem, I got married, I became pregnant, I had kids. And I started teaching kalot. I started teaching brides. I got trained to to teach brides. And then I said, wow, like, this is amazing. This is amazing. If I can make a difference in not allowing people make the mistake and fall in their shalom bayit, if I can prevent that, wow, it's a great success. Let's start from the beginning, because I did see a lot of shalom bayit issues, and I said, let's start from the newlyweds. Let's start with them. If they'll go into marriage the right way, then we can prevent a lot of issues in the community. Baruch Hashem, Chazda Hashem gave me the zechut to teach many more brides, and then with the chaskamot, with the encouragement of Rabbanim, I started training ladies to become Kal teachers. Baruch Hashem, we have so many amazing Kal teachers in the community. Just here alone, we have Rebbetzin Maksumov, Rebbetzin Zino. We have many in the audience who got trained. I don't want to begin to mention, not to leave out any names. Amazing ladies who are out there to teach your precious daughters. So please contact me if you need an amazing Kal teacher that will put your daughter on the right path and will help her start her marriage on the right path. And the other question that was asked was the current struggle in Latzinut. This is actually.
Oops, I missed that.
If you want to share.
This is a little embarrassing, but I guess this is my first time actually opening up.
We're all women.
Yeah. Okay. Fine. So, although Baruch Hashem, Modesty Hashem helps me a lot with this mitzvah, I'm not gonna say I'm there. I'm not gonna say I made it, because sky's the limit. There's so much more that I can do and become better and growing. But this is actually my first time sharing in public. Close your ears. And that is the struggle that. It's interesting, but I don't know, whatever. I guess I'll say it, but we'll take example of this. Anyway, I talk a lot about the beauty of having short nails and no nail polish and no nail tips and whatever. And I'm convinced, and I see the beauty of this. I see the beauty of this because this is what Hashem says is beauty. Beauty is when we have short nails with no nail polish, with no tips, with no gels, and so on and so forth. And I teach this and I preach this, and I do actually say that it becomes a real halachic issue when we go to mikvah. But not only is it a problem when we go to the mikvah for married ladies, but also even for single girls, or even for for ladies who are pregnant and they're not going to the mikvah for 9 months. It becomes a day-to-day issue on a daily basis halachically, because we know that if it's chipped or if it's outgrown and you wash your hands in the morning, it becomes a chatitza. You can't. It's chipped, so it gets in the way. The tumah, the impurity, doesn't leave your hands. You wash your hands for bread, and your hands are not, and your finger and your nails are not perfectly done. It becomes a problem. Okay, so I'm preaching and I'm talking, and I don't know.
And it hits you.
Yeah, it really, especially. Yeah, one second, please. So anyway, I'm preaching away, and all of a sudden, lately, I've seen so many so many religious girls and rabbits and whatever do their nails perfectly, and I'm like to myself, Mark, like, are you like in a different world? Like, give it the times, you know? And then I have to sort of go back to my notes and detox myself and say, okay, you know better. You know what the Rabbanim have to say. You know what they're like, and this is like something that from time to time it hits me, you know, I'm like, maybe I should get them done, you know, especially when the ladies go like this and like this and like this, you know, and especially the frum ones, the religious ones. So this is something that I have to like actually talk to myself and tell myself, this is not okay, this is not what my grandmothers used to do, my holy grandmothers, and whatever is in the fashion right now doesn't make it more okay. It doesn't mean that it's more okay just because more religious people are into this. So this is my personal struggle. Not struggle, but that's something that hits me from time to time. You had a question?
This is my first time ever hearing you should wear nail polish ever.
You could, but it has to be so perfectly done. And if it's not perfectly done, then it becomes a halachic issue on a day-to-day basis. And ladies who go to mikvah should really take everything off.
No,
Otherwise,
I never wear tips.
No, if you have gel manicure, they let you go.
they'll let you go only because it's a permission, it's a heter. It's a permission. It's not that, according to the letter of the law, it's not supposed to be.
Yeah.
But because unfortunately it has taken over a fashion industry, and because it's so much in style, that the rabbanim, the rabbis, are being pushed to the walls, and they found a leniency. It's a leniency. It's not the way it's supposed to be. It's not supposed to be, but it's a leniency. It's second best, you know? So if it's perfectly done and it's really clean under each nail, then the rabbanim sort of okay it. But it has to be perfectly done, and it's only made for those ladies who will not go to the mikvah otherwise. If you tell the lady, don't come like this, we can't let you in, and she'll say, okay, you know what, you're not going to let me in, I'm not going to go to mikvah at all, and this is what we're dealing with, unfortunately. So because of this, the Rabbanim found a leniency. It's very hard on the mikvah night to sit and fight with the lady. You know, we don't want to ruin her night. But real education starts from here, from classrooms like this. A lady who keeps this mitzvah should keep it fully with a pure heart and say, you know what, this is going to be my Mesirut Nefesh. If I'm keeping it, I have to keep it properly.
But I don't get tips. I don't do gel, but I never heard that you can't wear nail polish.
You could wear a modest nail polish if it's modest, and if it's perfectly done, it's not chipped, it's not outgrown, which is very hard to keep up for married ladies.
Never always be perfect. Like always, like it does chip. Like it doesn't stay perfect all the time.
So you would have to take it off and redo it.
So with regular nail polish,
Regular nail polish is probably more of an issue than even the gel powder when it comes to day to day.
so you're saying that it's better never to wear any nail polish?
Most of the time, better not to. But now I can't say not to because people are not going to listen. It's a big thing. It's a big struggle. So if a lady's doing it, then she has to be conscious and understand that she has to make it always perfect. They always have to look perfectly done.
Because my nails, I do cut them very short. I know that it's supposed to be very short,
Right.
and you shouldn't see your nails like this.
Right.
And it's better you don't even see the white.
Right.
So what I get that when I get my nails done, but I never heard this before.
Baruch Hashem, you're here and you heard it. We live and we learn. So I'm glad you learned something new. Yes.
In one of your lectures, you mentioned that it's a
Do you wanna? Do you mind? If it's an inspirational, let ladies get. Can I?
It's okay, I'll
Just
keep up.
repeat it. Just repeat it.
In one of your lectures, you mentioned that it's a mitzvah to beautify yourself for your husband.
Yes.
So I consider my husband is like, with the
Okay.
background in beauty and stuff like that. I consider doing my nails for him as a mitzvah. So now, I
Where
guess-
does that put her?
Huh? Yeah.
She's saying that a lady has an obligation to look beautiful and presentable to her husband, and especially if the husband finds it attractive to have your nails perfectly done, what should you do? So I would say pay top dollar, get it removed before going to the mikvah, right? And there's Baruch Hashem in religious communities they have a 2-day service where you can do, the first part of the service a day before, like on the day of the mikvah, and the second part after you go to, after you come out of the mikvah. So before you go to mikvah, you remove, you cut it short, you do everything properly, and then you go the next day to get it done perfectly the way your husband and you like it. But it has to be perfectly even for day to day. It's not just a problem for the mikvah. Even on daily basis, it becomes a halachic issue. Or the other option is to have ladies that come to your house and do your nails. That's another option. Someone also told me about stick-ons. I don't know how that works. Can you shed some light? I know that people who've done it, they say that it's amazing because it doesn't ruin your own nail bed. It removes easily, and it's good. Like especially if you don't want to have your nails done every day, you just want to do it for the wedding, for bar mitzvah, so you could put it on and then easily remove it the next day or the next 2 days, whatever. So that's another option.
Sorry to interrupt. Someone's car is blocking a driveway. Mazda. There's 2 cars. Honda and Mazda.
It's also a problem when it starts growing.
Yeah. Yes, if it's outgrown and you see your own. Exactly, it's a problem.
And I don't know how realistic it is for a married mom with a bunch of kids to upkeep with her nails. And I want to just say, aside for the halachic things, aside for the halachic issue, just to take a look at what's taking place hygienically under the nails, it's gross. You should know that people who are in the medical field, I just had a student in my class, she's entering a nursing program, and they said that if you have to take off your nails as soon as you enter the nursing program. You have to remove your nails. They have to be short. Why? Not to transfer germs. So last week I was sitting and eating, and there were a bunch of ladies sitting, and one lady really had her nails long. I don't know why. Don't ask. I was eating, and I don't know how my eyes caught her nails, and the gunk that I saw under her nails, it was so nauseating. I was like, I couldn't swallow. Like I had to turn my face from her. I'm like, wow, this is just unbelievable. Just like aside from the halachic issue, hygienically, it becomes hard to keep up. Yeah.
Thank you. Next question is, what is tzniut, and is it just covering your body? Does it end in the collarbone, knees, and elbows? What's it all about?
Okay, so first I didn't share my struggle. So my struggle is your body is constantly changing, and you might have something in your closet that you really like and you really want to wear it, but it's too tight over here, it's showing over here, and I'm just like, oh my goodness, like I don't have an outfit now. And then I'm just like, it's okay, I'm gonna do the right thing, and Hashem is gonna help me. Like at the moment you can feel that, like that pain, that discomfort, and you can throw that pain and discomfort and say, like, Hashem, this is my korban. This is what I'm going to do to sacrifice for you. Like, I love you so much. It's not a burden. Yeah, okay, it was a little bit, like, annoying. Now I have to find another outfit, but it's okay, you know? And now I have to alter it or whatever, right? So, Baruch Hashem, like, every time this happens to me, and I don't have a mitachas for it, right? I'm always last minute. So I find the dress. The wedding is in an hour. I'm like going through my shkaf for a mitpachet, and I'm like, Hashem, like I'm doing this because I love you. Like, hook a girl up, you know, help me out over here. And he's like, here, this mitpachet, that mitpachet, and I'm like thinking, like, does it really match? I don't know. This is so like nerve-wracking. I don't want to look like a babushka, you know. So I asked my husband, I'm like, does it match? He's like, yeah. How'd you find it? I'm like, don't ask. It was like a whole thing, you know. So that's my struggle personally, and honestly, like when you talk to Hashem in your struggle, it doesn't become a struggle anymore. It becomes an opportunity to have a relationship with Hashem. What was the other question? I'm sorry.
What is tzniut, and is it just covering your collarbone, knees, and elbows?
Okay, so that's just the basics of tzniut, but tzniut goes deeper, and I'm sure Abitzins we'll delve into it, but from my perspective, tzniut is also about how we carry ourselves outside, in the house. You know, a lot of times people say like, okay, I'm home alone, I could just do whatever I want, and act however I want, and whatever, or dance however I want, in all women section, and like, there's a certain like sensitivity of tzniut, you know, like, I used to also have fun and dance and whatever, but I realized like, it's not covered for me, because I'm a princess. I'm bat melech. So sometimes I'm just like, okay, I also want to dance fun, so I'll dance fun, but within boundary. I don't overstep that boundary to make me look like I'm not tzanua. Or I remember when I went to seminary, I had a friend, she was very loud. She was very, very religious, but she was very, very loud. So I had to tell her in a very, very nice way, like this is not tznius, you know? And it hurt her because she's like, how am I not tznius? Like, I'm very tznius, you know? And she was like loud about it. And I'm just like, oh, like you are tznius, but I love you and I care about you, and I'm telling you that by you screaming is not tznius, you know? And eventually we learned about it, and she came up to me and she's like, I'm so sorry that like I attacked you. I'm like, it's okay, you know, I'll be your punching bag. I just trying to like make you understand that tznius is how you carry yourself and how you walk, and you know, like even certain how do I say it in a nice way, like let's be real, certain heels are not tznius, right? It's just not. It's very provocative. I'm not saying don't be a babushka and wear the 1-inch heel and whatever, but make sure that when you're walking, you represent royalty. And you always have to ask this question. It's never like, okay, I have my wardrobe, I have my style, and this is gonna be my style forever. You know how many times I changed my style married? Oh my gosh, like 5 times. From a shirt to a skirt, then eventually like the past year and a half, 2 years, I'm only dresses. And it's like your style changes, you know, eventually your style changes, and you have to know to make sure that it's modest. And it's okay to change your style, and it's okay to wear heels, but you have to feel modest. You cannot feel like, you know, like if you already feel like that, I'd say like go down a little bit, that way you're more humble, more modest. And also tzniut also plays a big role with how we think in our mind. It's very, very important. Like, I don't know, like chas v'shalom, thinking about other people. You know, like you don't want to think these things, and you always have to make sure that your thoughts are pure. And even though, like in your head, you want to say a bad word or whatever it is, like people have this test. You know, it's a real thing. Like something happens and you say that bad word in your head, or you think of this bad thing in your head, whatever it is. You know, like we're all human, right? So eventually, we have to filter out our brain also. I think it's very important, and we all go through it. I come from a Baal Tshuva home, so believe me, I'm in the same, like, in my head, like I want to think something, and right away I'm like, ew, why am I thinking that? Or like I used to listen to rap music. I can't believe I'm saying this, but like, I used to love it. I don't know how. Like I look back and I'm like, why did I like that? Oh my gosh. So like my son, one of my kids, he actually likes music with beats. Like me, but rap was a little different, but like reggaeton, you know, like beats, fun, exciting. So like he gets that from me, you know, it's funny. But now there's kosher music available, so it's like it's nice to see that I don't have to like deprive him from it, you know. For me, when I took about myself kosher music, for tznius purposes, I was like, oh my gosh, this is honestly, it was Gehenna. It was like one song. Halayla Zazman, like the whole time. I'm just like, come on, guys, like God bless, God help us, but like we needed more music. It was like, it was hard for me. I loved my music, you know? And eventually I also took that upon myself, and it affects the way you behave. I used to wear baggy, right? Why did I used to wear baggy? Because of the music I used to listen to. I was like a ghetto kid. You know, you can't imagine it now, but I was. You could never imagine it now. Oh my gosh. But once you change your music, your style of music, your style of clothing, your friends, oh my gosh, your friends have such a huge impact on the way you speak, the people around you. It's like, all this affects your tznius. If you're gonna be around people who just mock you and laugh at you, it's gonna be very hard for you to like embrace yourself. Like I came back from seminary, and I'll end with this. And one of my friends, and I was wearing tights, and one of my friends was like, you're wearing tights? And already it's hard for me to wear tights. Yeah, I'm wearing tights. Like, what do you want from me, you know? And she's like, ew, I can't believe it. You're that girl. And I'm like, this girl's my best friend. Like, what?
It wasn't you.
No, it wasn't. And I was just like, I was so hurt, you know? Like, a whole year you didn't see me. I come back, that's the first thing you notice. Like, whoa. Eventually, like, I did my own thing, she did her own thing. And I didn't let her, like, affect me to change my tznius. I just distanced myself. So you have to constantly be aware of your surroundings, your music. Don't go, like if you realize, you go to a Jewish establishment, and what do they play there? Reggaeton, the Spanish music, this Hashem Yerachim music. I went with my husband somewhere. It was just me and him actually in the restaurant. It's like a small place. We walk in, they know he's the rabbi. And it's like the song was so disgusting, I don't even know the words, I don't know who sings it. Mia plocha style, I was like, oh my God, I don't feel comfortable sitting here. I was like, I didn't know what to do with myself. And I'm thinking, should I say something or should I just leave it? I have this fear, like, are they gonna look at me like I'm some fanatic, or should I be quiet? Should I like stick up? Like, I'm paying money, I wanna enjoy my meal, I don't feel comfortable here. So I said, you know what? I'm gonna say something, and I know my husband could get uncomfortable if I say something, and I'm like, I'm gonna mention something, just bear with me, okay? Like, I had to warn him. He's like, okay. I said, I'm so sorry, do you mind changing the song? He didn't even pay attention, he's so used to it. He's like, oh my God, okay, sure, no problem. And he right away changed it. It was like so disgusting, like, oh my God. And like, we bring our kids there, one time, it was again me and my husband, there was a TV screen, Jewish establishment, Jewish places. It's like, it hurts me, I can't take my kids there because of this. There's TVs. One time the commercial, thank God I sat facing the TV, right? The commercial was so scary. I was like, sir, can you change the channel? Like, go look right now, go change the channel. He's like, oh, he beat, Like why? We're religious, we're from, like, we have to stick to our standards, we have to embrace them. We don't have to be like the goyim. We have a mitzvah to be a light unto the nations, right? Not to follow them. So it's very hard for us to constantly be on top of all these things that I just mentioned, but at least choose one thing that you want to focus on to help you become more tznius just for yourself.
Okay, so the question is, what is tzniut? Is it just our collarbone, elbows, and knees? So I think that when majority of us learn about tzniut the first time, that's what we're being told. That it really is just about the collarbone, elbows, and knees. Especially if you're coming from, let's say, a more like a Baal Tshuva school, or you learned it somewhere else. So I remember when I was in high school, and I used to go away for Pesach to a hotel program as a babysitter. It was very hard for me to be at home for Pesach. We were always by a different family's house. I wasn't sure if I could eat there. My parents were okay with it. And I remember I used to babysit on the floor in the hallway. Like at night when the kids would be sleeping, we would be sitting in the hallway. And a girl was sitting next to me. And we were talking, and all of a sudden, Rebbetzin Feiner. Anybody knows Rebbetzin Feiner? Five towns. She walks by, and that was like when I was just becoming more religious. And everybody goes through like a very high point in their life where when you do it right. So I had a lot of skirts that didn't cover my knees all the way, but I liked them. So I used to wear another skirt under that skirt, and then I would wear that skirt on top, so it would be extra length. I didn't realize how nerdy it looked, but I didn't really care at that point. So I remember sitting there, and the place that I used to babysit by, like this hotel program, it was for religious people, but a lot of religious people, they don't necessarily follow the guidelines of what tzniut really is nowadays, because it's hard, it's a struggle. We live in a very exposed world. So she walked by and she complimented me. She said, wow, I'm so impressed by you. Like, you're so modest. Your knees are so covered. And I'm like, oh yeah, you're right. So the girl that was sitting next to me, she jumped up and she said, oh, me, how about me, Rebbetzin? Am I modest? And she had a very big chest area. So it was a very tight shirt. And to me, like, I didn't even know that there's a concept that it's not just elbows, knees, and collarbones. And the lady said to her, she said, you look great, just you have to be a little bit careful in that area. And all of a sudden it hit me. I felt like I was living a lie up to this point. And when I came home, I looked at my clothing and I realized that most of my clothing didn't fit into the standard. They were very tight because I didn't even know that it has to be that tight. So I remember detoxing my whole closet, and I went to the other extreme. Everything was now super baggy. And eventually life makes you normal again, and I balanced out, and now we're in between, and I think we're okay. But that's when I realized that it's not just about those standards. That's the basic of the basic. So I had a teacher in high school who said that her Rebbetzin told her that if from the side, mirror view, if you look like a letter P or a lowercase letter D, then you're not dressed properly. So if we could picture that image,
I like that.
that means if your clothing is a little bit too tight, then you're not modest. And a P, so yeah, from the side. If you're standing from the side and you look like the letter P or a lowercase D, I will draw it later. Basically, if it's tight in the right places, you know what I mean? So it hit me really hard, and I'm like, wow, I would never even think that. So that's when I realized that there's so much more, and it's very hard because so many people nowadays, they'll wear bodycon dresses and they'll think they're fine, and they really don't even realize that it's not okay. It's not, they're not being malicious. They really believe that they're fully covered because that's what we're taught. So that's the separate level. So the question really is, who cares, right? Why are there so many details? Why does it matter P's, D's, A's? Like, who cares? And I think I heard something recently that was such a powerful concept. They said, what is modesty? They said, dress the way you want to be addressed. Okay, so again, dress the way you want to be addressed. How do you want people to relate to you? Do you want people to look at you and the first thing they say is, Psh, she's hot? I mean, yeah, we like it low-key, but is that all we want to be noticed for? Or do we want to be noticed for who are we inside? Because that's in essence what modesty is. We're trying to take the inner me and express it outwardly. The problem is that when my body gets in the way, it's very hard to focus on me. Because then I just get lost with all the different body parts that are being shown, all the different skin that's being exposed. So it's not that Hashem is trying to limit ourselves in the way that we dress and in our beauty that we represent to the world. It's the opposite. Hashem wants the world to get to know the real you. The you that is in the body. Because we're not our body. We're actually a soul that is living in a body. One day, when a person passes away, that body's like a water bottle. When you take out the water of the bottle, it's just a vessel. Same thing with us. Like, how can we picture this? If you, God forbid, see a person who is paralyzed in bed, and they're in a coma, and a person comes to them and they start to speak, we know that the person possibly hears us, but their body's not functioning at all. So who is that person? Are they their body, or is there something else? Now, what do we say when a person passed away? Let's say they were in a coma for years. There was no communication. We don't know if they were alive, but we see they're alive, their heart is going. And the moment the heart stops, the famous words that everybody says is, they're no longer here with us. We lost them. They're gone. What do you mean? They're right there. They've been in the same position for years because the person's not there. And the person's in the body. That's who we really are. We're just, a body is just there to enclose our neshama. Now, of course, you have to have a body to live. So we need to take care of that body. We need to feed that body. We need to exercise. We need to be healthy. Because if we don't do the body's needs, the body and the soul eventually separate. And the soul can no longer live in this world. So the body is important. But the question is, how do we represent that body? Do we want to be noticed for just our body? Or are we something more than that? And that's where it really comes in. So I feel like if we look at the way that the queens used to dress back in the day, royalty, they did not reveal their body at all. Think about, I mean, nowadays the princesses we have in our mind is Cinderella and Sleeping Beauty, and they're pretty exposed. But if you would imagine a real queen, okay, let's even look at Queen Elizabeth. Okay, hop. She represented royalty. She never wore pants. She was always dressed with a suit type of, suit with a skirt. Her hair was always covered. She had a hat or some kind of beautiful thing on her head. She also covered her hands, by the way. If you ever noticed, she always wore gloves. When you looked at her, there was a certain respect you had towards her. She represented royalty. The first woman used to dress this way as well. The dress is falling off of her. You see every part of the body. If we're honest with ourselves, do we respect her and say, that's the first lady of America? Or do we look at her and say, I'm embarrassed to say she's the president's wife? There is a certain judgment that we have, whether we like it or not. The first appearance makes a huge difference. And therefore, dress the way you want to be addressed. If you go to an interview You're not coming in a mini skirt and a tank top, unless that's the type of job you're getting. If you're trying to get a normal job, you're going to come dressed properly because you want them to notice you for your set of skills, you want them to notice you for who you are, and therefore you're going to present yourself in a respectable manner. So I think that's what tzniut really is. What am I trying to express to the world? Is it me or is it my body? And if you think about it, the people who express their body more than themselves, they usually are the ones who feel like there's not much else to show. I don't have much more that I can get attention for, and therefore I'm going to end up selling myself short and expressing my body because that's all I can really get attention for. So that's something to have in mind. What am I trying to express to the world? If it's me, then how do I want to present myself? And if it's my body, then obviously that's what I want to present. I want to represent my body. And the last point I just want to bring out, a lot of times we get upset and we say, why do I have to dress in a long sleeve shirt in 95-degree weather because of these men? Right? So a lot of people feel like we're modest because of men. It's not true. We're not modest because of men. If we can look at it in a different perspective, we won't be so angry at them. See, my youngest brother is allergic to peanuts. He's airborne. He came to my house one time and he got an allergic reaction and nobody was eating peanuts next to him. And then I remembered before he came into my house, my son ate bamba. He took the bag and he threw it into the garbage can. But when a person is so severely allergic to it, he smelled the bamba from across the room and he had a reaction to it. So that's how we could almost look at it. If my brother will come to my house and I am sensitive to my brother's reactions, as a nice person, I will not eat peanuts before he comes, unless he bothers me really badly, right? But really, you wouldn't do it not because of you I can never eat bamba in my house, you're so annoying. I feel bad for your sensitivity, so I will be careful. Same thing with men. I understand that they have a weakness towards my beauty. We're beautiful. There's a certain attraction. So because I feel bad for your weakness as a sensitive human being, I will cover up that part of my body that causes you to have your allergic reaction, and I will do it not because you make me, but because I understand your struggle. So it's not their fault. Hashem made them this way, because it has to be this way. But it's not because of them we suffer. We dress tzniut for ourselves. They're just a side point. Thank you.
Beautiful. Well said, thank you. So what is modesty? Is it only the physical, right? Is it only about covering knees, elbows, and collarbone? So let us look at the source, and it says the following: HaKadosh Baruch Hu bara et ha'isha min hatzalah. Hashem created woman from Adam's side. Mimkom tzanua shetiyeh tzanua. He said that may you be tzanua. May all your body parts be tzanua. In other words, when Hashem created Hava, he could have created her from Adam's hands. He could have created her from Adam's legs. He could have created her from his head. What did Hashem choose to create Hava from? From his inner side. From here, Hazal tell us that from that point on, what happened to the woman by nature? The woman's nature gravitates towards modesty. And every limb that Hashem created, Hashem said, may your hands be covered, may you be modest, may your legs be covered, may your head be covered, right? It's a nature, it's already in Bria, it's already in the nature. Why? Because we were created this way. What happens when you created a certain way, you're meant to be a certain way, and then you go against the nature? What happens? You break down. You break down. You break down emotionally, you break down physically, you break down psychologically. Why? Because you go against your nature. And what the society has tried to do right now is to break down the very essence of a woman. By doing what? By making us go against our nature. Our nature is to cover up. Our nature is to be modest. When we go against our nature, what we in essence are doing, we're hurting ourselves. And Sanua, being modest, this is just a physical manifestation, covering your elbows and covering your knees and covering your collarbones and making sure that's not too tight. It's not the see-through, and when you lift your hands, it shouldn't be, a see-through, and if you're married, to cover your hair, right? These are just physical manifestations of modesty. But what modesty in essence is to bring out your true self, your true dignity. And modesty is not just in physical, modesty encompasses your thought process. A modest woman should be very careful the way she thinks of herself. If a lady thinks that I'm a big shot, I got it all, do you know how beautiful I am? Do you know how many guys are running after me? Ladies, you won't believe it. I have ladies like in their 70s, in their 80s, and that's how they talk about their youth. Do you know how gorgeous I was? People used to run after me. And I still have ladies, like very old ladies, that will claim that there are guys 20 years, 30 years younger than them and still want them, but she'll play hard to get, So I was like, okay, Anyway, so that mindset is not modest. To think that you are the person, drop gorgeous, the most talented, the world cannot survive without you. Do you know what kind of money I can make? I'll be the whole town, So that mindset is not modest. To think that everyone else around you are nobodies, that mindset is not modest, right? The way a lady talks, a lady who talks, a modest lady will be careful with the tone of her voice. She's not too loud, like Robinson said, right? She's not too loud. She doesn't draw people's attention. When she laughs, she has to laugh in a way that doesn't draw people's attention. I don't know if you've ever been to an event. I recently been to one. There's just one table full of ladies. I don't know what they were on. But I was all the way on the other side, and I'm like, what's going on there, And there was no shame at all, right? Or ladies drinking, that's a problem. It's a breach of modesty. The way, the laxity in behavior and the way they carry themselves, being loud and laughing or talking, right? That's another thing. If a lady, Chas v'shalom, uses a foul language, I don't want to begin to say what's not allowed, what's not appropriate for Bad Israel to use, right? Picture yourself. I'm a daughter of a king. Certain things are not supposed to be said. I'm not even allowed to think of those words. I want to tell you something. I don't know if we have ladies who are old enough to remember. See, you might know this, right? You tell me, back in Russia, right? Who used foul language? Mostly men, right? If a lady used it, they would say, how can you use it? It's not allowed. A lady uses, it's terrible, right? I'm not saying it's okay for guys to use it. But at least back then, there was certain type of sensitivity that it's only reserved for men. It's not reserved for anyone according to Torah. Not men and not women are allowed to use that kind of language. But I'm saying more so for a lady to be careful with what type of words come out of her mouth. And unfortunately, this is so sad that we see ladies, in the heat of the moment, they can use such an inappropriate language, and they use it from their little kids, and it's terrible. I can't begin to bring myself to say what those words are, and unfortunately, they have replaced them. For example, H-E-L-L became H-E-C-K, right? And they'll say it every other word, every other word, and just like a certain type of arrogance in a conversation. That's a breach of modesty. A Bad Israel, a lady who has dignity, who carries herself with certain type of importance, right? That's what modesty is supposed to do to you. When you walk, you're supposed to feel like, wow, do you know who I am? In order for you to see one part of my body, do you know who you need to be? You can't just be anyone to see parts of my body, right? In order for me to even talk to you, do you know who you need to be? I'm not just going to engage in a conversation randomly with anyone, right? So all those things, when a lady is modest, what it does is it boosts your own self-esteem. It gives you dignity. It gives you self-respect. And I can't begin to tell there's a mashal. When do people get undressed? Well, imagine there's a guy who's walking, and a wind and the sun, they have an argument. who is gonna make sure that that guy takes off his coat? So the wind tells, watch what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna blow so hard. I'm gonna make sure that the guy is gonna take off his coat. And he starts blowing, and he starts blowing, and he starts blowing. And guess what the guy does? The more he blows, the more he holds on to his coat, right? And then the sun says, watch me take off that guy's coat. What does he do? He started getting hotter and hotter, and turning from 70 to 80 to 90 to 100. And didn't take much for the guy to take off his coat. Who won? The sun. Ladies, we live in this generation. Back in the time when people were after us, right? When the Yavanim, we just celebrated Hanukkah, right? Yavanim, the Greeks were after us. They were beating us, killing us. Stop with your religion. Stop with your Brit Milah. Stop with your Shabbat. Stop with your Tzniut. Did they win? No. We're like choking us, right? Killing us. That was the win. That didn't go. But now in the 21st century, we are in America, in a Western society, and we have a beautiful sun shining. All is good. You're accepted. No problem. It's all the Maaseh of Satan. This is all the doing of Satan. And unfortunately, that beautiful sun is capable of removing all the layers of protection from Am Yisrael. Unfortunately, it's so powerful. That force is so powerful that everything that we held on to so dearly is being let go by the beautiful sun that's beating on us. So we need to be careful. We need to be careful and not imitate the ways of Goyim, and not look at the fashion designers and say, oh look, but look at them, they're doing it. It must be okay, it looks cool, it looks nice, it looks with the times. Right, like it was mentioned, that we as Jews have an obligation to be light unto nations. We ladies, when Hashem created the world, Hashem said, I want the Jewish nation to be Or LaGoyim. We need to be a light unto nations, which means that when you walk on the streets, the Goyim are supposed to take example from you. Oh, let me check her out. Look at the length of her skirt. Oh, I like her hat. Or I like her sweater, right? In other words, they're supposed to take example from us. But because we live in Galut, unfortunately, the opposite is happening. And I'm asking all of us to strengthen ourselves and to say, I deserve better. Being modest is doing you yourself a favor. Not to settle for second best, not to shortcut yourself, not to say, you know what, it's too much. Let it be too much. Why? Because I'm buying myself dignity. I'm buying myself respect. And I'm doing myself a favor. And I have to tell you, ladies who are modest, they walk with confidence. They talk with confidence. They talk with respect. They gain that respect, right? I just want to share quickly. If you look at all the politicians, all the female, but let's take the recent one. I don't want to mention her name, but I will. Kamala Harris. Did any one of you do your research on who she was in her past? Yeah? Okay, I'm not going to mention what she was, right? Okay. Interestingly, if she wants to win presidential, presidency, and she wants to become the next president, what does she have to do? You would think, just continue with your ways, right? That's not what she does. Interestingly, at every single campaign, at every single speech that she gave, look at the way she was dressed. Very conservative. Always covered up. Her hair was modest. Her makeup was modest. Not because this is who she is, because the psychologists who are behind these campaigns actually tell these people, you want to win presidency, you want to become the next president, you want people to trust you, you want people to believe in you, you want to be the next president, you want to gain public opinion, you want to be seen in a positive light, dress up. And the more you'll be exposed, because she knew that if she's going to come out sleeveless, with her tank top or mini skirt, there was zero chance of her getting any vote. Not just her, anyone, Clinton or any female politician that wants to win presidency or whatever it is that she wants to win in the office, look the way they dress. Why? To gain people's respect, you need to, like the representative said, you need to gain that respect by dressing properly, by talking properly. I can't even begin to tell you the stories that I've heard about Clinton, Hillary Clinton. People that were close to her, they said that she has such a nasty attitude. She's such a mean person. She fired people, she screamed at them as her close aides. But when she goes in public, they actually get trained. they're actually being taught by psychologists how to properly address the crowd with a smile, with calmness, right? And that's what, this is what makes people trust them, and this is what makes us to vote for them, right? Of course, we shouldn't be double-faced like them. That's not what I'm promoting. But what I'm saying is that if you want to get people's respect, you want your husband to respect you, you want your kids to respect you, you want to have a say, you want people to respect you, then you have to act like one. You have to be modest, both in dress code, in mindset, in behavior, in the way you relate to people. And Rizat Hashem, I hope and pray that all of us will have the strength to undertake the mitzvah of tzniut wholeheartedly. It's not just in dress code, everything. It's a whole mindset behind it. And what I would recommend, long term, this speech alone is not going to do the job. I strongly recommend you get the book called Reclaiming Your Dignity. That's one book that you can get on modesty. Daughters of Dignity you can get, that's another book. Osbe Hadar Lubusha, that's another book that you can get. And read up, and that will give you a lot of chizuk in the area of modesty. Okay.
What's the next question?
I'm sorry, I just realized I made a mistake. I said Ivanka Trump, I meant Melania Trump. Ivanka Trump is properly dressed. Whatever, more or less. But I meant Melania Trump, sorry.
And by the way,
And she's Jewish, so that was Lashon Hara, but that's not what I'm saying.
right.
I meant Melania.
And it's interesting because
If you look at Melania, right, she's not running for presidency or for any job in the office, so she doesn't care to look the way she wants to look. You understand what I'm saying? If she were to run for any office, she would never come out the way she does. Just like, something else to contemplate.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to open the floor to anyone who has personal questions.
Вы сказали, что пить нельзя, for Shabbat, for example, we're gonna go to guests, to our cousins, to our whatever. Why you cannot drink? Why it's not modest,
Why can't you drink?
Alcoholic.
Like, why can't you take a shot with your family?
You could take a shot with the family, but those people, unfortunately, they don't know their limits, and I've seen that. They went from one shot to two shots to three shots, and then they got high and they got funny, and they behave funny. So for you, if some people know their limits, and unfortunately some don't. And I've seen ladies that have lost it in public, and that did not look good. So also you have to understand something, that little kids are watching. You understand? You in your head, one is okay, but kids are not realizing. The little girls that are watching us, they think, okay, she took one, I'll take two. The other one says, okay, she took two, I'll take three. Where do you draw the line? Okay, this is not said that you're not allowed or allowed, but I'm just saying.
No, I'm not drinking. I'm just asking why not.
It's not something that just picture someone on a high level, like someone like Queen Elizabeth, right? By the way, I read a whole article on how they were taught, if you wanted to dine with her, you had to take a class.
Wow.
If you want to eat with the queen, you have to take a class. And there's a whole thing how you first pick up this spoon and then this fork and then this, and the way you sit and the way you put the food into your mouth, there's a whole process. Why? Because you're royalty. A Jewish nation is royalty. A Jewish wife, a Jewish woman is royalty. So for her to sit and drink and get high, that's not royalty. That's not royalty. Any other question? Yes. The question is that can a lady who's married cover her hair with and have two fingers open in front? Is that allowed? Halachically, I believe Rabbi Yosef says that it's allowed. However, Kabbalistically, according to Kabbalah, if a lady covers all of her hair, she'll have the merit to have righteous kids. So if it's hard for her to cover everything, she has to rely on if she, keeps the two fingers open.
Two fingers. It's honored to
I also heard that we could rely on those two fingers. Like, let's say I put my mipachat, right? And I'm busy with the kids, whatever, and then it falls back. So the two tvachim I could rely on. You understand? But it depends also, like, where you're holding spiritually also.
Anyone else? And I want to tell you something. I was in a PE school, and I was one of the few religious girls in the program, and most of them were not Jewish. And I remember, like, you know, you have a class from 8 to 10, and then you have a break for a few hours. And then again, you have a class, and then you have another break for a few hours, something like that, right? And so you're together with your classmates all day long. And unfortunately, whether you like it or not, you become one family. You know, you rub off each other, you talk, you joke, you know, and there's no one to go. Like, there's nowhere to go. There's just one room, there's nowhere. Like, literally, there's nowhere to go. There's no stores, nothing. It's like on the island, you know? So you're stuck with them. And I can't begin to tell you the amount of dramas that took place in that class. Out of nothing. Like, if a professor would be like, we're having a test tomorrow, and all of a sudden you literally had like a whole class divided into two. This one saying, no, we want to push it, and the other's like, why not? Why can't we have to, like, over nothing, over like silly things? We're talking about adults having such fights, and I cannot begin to tell you the type of language that was used. And the aggravation, I would just sit there and like look at them like, what's this? Like a comedy show, you know? For free though. Anyway, so I remember after some time, one of my classmates came to me, and he was already in his 40s, very hot-tempered, and he goes to me, hey Malka, can I ask you a question? I said, yes. He's like, are you human? I said, yeah. And I'm like one of the youngest, you know. Do you ever get angry? I said, of course. Do you ever curse? I said, no. How do you manage your anger? Why? To manage your anger, you have to curse? Like, yeah. I don't understand. Like, you never show your emotions. You always keep cool, and you never curse. I've never like, I've been watching you throughout, and you just don't curse. And I said, thank God, you know, I have different ways on how to cope with anger and whatever. Anyway, you don't understand, from that point on, all of my classmates would shake the minute I would come to class, and that was before I was married. As a single girl, I would come into class, I would walk into class, if any one of them used a 4-letter word, if they saw me, they apologized 10 times. Oh my gosh, Malkas, I'm so sorry. And they would be genuinely sorry for using that language. We can't curse next to her. You know, and the type of respect that I've gained from my classmates from Goyim, like they would literally get up and be like, Malka walked in. It was just unbelievable. The way you conduct yourself makes such an impression, and dignity, and the self-respect that you gain by talking properly, by behaving properly, by dressing properly, gains you so much respect and admiration, both from people around, but mostly from your husbands. And I cannot begin to tell you how many young girls out there who have no concept of modesty have so many broken hearts. They're doing it to themselves. I wish I can come over and give them a hug and be like, embrace this mitzvah, it's for you. Don't cut yourself short, don't go out with this guy, don't mingle, don't do this for yourself. What are you doing? You have so much to offer, you have so much beauty, you have so much fame. What are you doing? It hurts me. When I see a girl who's not modest, I cry for her, because she's just missing out on so much that the life has to offer.
It's funny that we're talking about the cursing thing. My son, he's 6 years old, and I think it was like Friday, he was drinking orange juice and he spilled some on the floor. So I'm like, okay, whatever, take a towel, clean it up. He's like, you know, mommy, it's so funny. If you were Goyish, you would say the F word. First of all, how do you know the F word? But okay, fine. And I said, that's so funny. Why do you say that? He's like, because that's what Goyim do. When they're angry, they curse. But it was so beautiful. I'm like, right, and I'm a Jewish mom, and I don't say that. So it's interesting how kids pick up on everything. So if you're going to react a certain way in your house, your kids are going to do the same thing. But when they do, they get screamed at by us. Meanwhile, where do they learn it from? Usually from us. So they're so smart in every little area. And especially when it comes to the way that we present ourselves. We can't trick them. We can give them lectures from today to tomorrow. But they know the truth. We live in their house. They see how we feel towards the mitzvot. They see how we feel towards the way we dress. So if a mother is always complaining about the mitzvah of modesty, what do you want from your daughter? What do you expect from her? So it's not just enough not to complain. They have like special x-ray vision to your brain. They know what you feel about it too. So it's important to develop that love inside of yourself so that when you keep any mitzvah, especially this, it comes across in a positive light, because it doesn't matter what school your kids go to. At the end of the day, Their schooling is at home. They're watching you. They're seeing how you act. They're seeing how you react, and they start to do the same thing. So the most dangerous school out there are the parents. It's a huge responsibility, and it starts with us. That's why parenting doesn't begin when you have your first kid. It begins way, way before that to train yourself to love things. So it's very important from our end to take classes, to learn about it. And like as I said, there's so many things on Torah anytime. So much things that are accessible. You know, like just from my own classes, I know I have a class, as I said, on tzniut, the beauty of tzniut. Listen to it. There's a class on shomer negiah, not the halachot, why we don't do it. What, meaning, what do we not do? Why do we have these mitzvot? And you'll see that it's there for your benefit. There's also a class there about the modesty laws in the workplace between men and women. That's also a big thing. How do we speak to our coworkers? How do we speak to the men that we work with? There are huge boundary lines that have to be drawn, especially when you're married, because things happen. There's a book called From 9 to 5. It's a book about all the laws when it applies to the workplace, when it comes to college. The guy wants to take your notes and he wants you to help him. Does he really only want your notes and want him to, want you to help him? It gets very, 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 very gray. It's not black and white. And it's so important to give ourselves that knowledge because boundaries get crossed. Nobody just starts off one day saying, that's it, today I'm going to go do something bad. Little increments. And before you know it, you're stuck and you don't know how to get out. Yes? Yes, you.
Do you guys get practical tips on how to keep your cool and like, like,
With the kids.
when you say like you don't versus you don't use style like you don't get angry, whatever, how do you keep your cool practically as a Jewish woman?
I have a class on anger too. It's called Anger Danger. Yeah, Torah Anytime. Search of Blame Maximum. But again, a lot of these things are researched. We're not perfect, we're still a work in progress, and our kids will be the first ones to tell you what you're doing wrong, which is great. What are different tools and techniques? We'll give this over to Rabbi Malka. She has more experience in this area. Maybe we'll come back.
So that's a great question. How do you actually hold yourself back in a moment of heat, in a moment of anger, when you're dealing with kids, right? And there's so much going on, and everyone wants your attention at the same time, and everyone's spilling things on the floor at the same time, right? And it's just like, oh my gosh, like give me a break. So first and foremost, I want to say that we're all humans, and there will be times that you fall. We're humans. But there's certain measures that we need to take. They're called emergency measures. And that is to promise yourself that in the time of such craziness, balagan, I'm going to walk around with a smile, and when I really feel that heat, I'm just going to zip my mouth, and if it helps for you to go to a different room, just to take emergency, as an emergency exit, I just leave the room, I'm going to leave the scene, so that I can calm myself down and come back with a smile.
They'll follow you.
Even if they follow you, you lock the door. I'm telling you, it helps. You lock the door, and they bang it, and then you should have a list in that room. You should have a list of all your blessings. It really helps. A list of all the blessings that Baruch Hashem, I have kids. That
Even in
Baruch
the
Hashem,
bathroom.
whatever it is, mental note, right? You could take a mental note. Baruch Hashem, I have kids. Baruch Hashem, there are kids that want my attention. Baruch Hashem, I have a messy home. Baruch Hashem, kids are drawing on my walls, right? And you'll come out like, so refreshed, like Baruch Hashem. Like my kids are doing this. I just got my.
Come out to prepare.
No, you're gonna calm down. And the chaos is gonna continue, but your response is gonna be different. You understand? Your response is gonna be different. And every time I have to think of all the infertile couples that are struggling to get what I'm getting, to get those paintings on the wall, they'll pay anything to get that. It calms me down. It calms me down to think, when I go to that room, it calms me down to think that, Baruch Hashem, I'm in my house and not in a hospital. I would give anything to be in my own house to deal with this, that Chas Shalom, trade places with ladies in the hospital. Those are the things that you write when you're calm. And when you are angry, say, I'm sorry, I have to go, mommy has to go. You go to the room, you lock yourself out for a few minutes. You take out the list and you go through all the blessings, you're gonna come out refreshed. You'll be like, wow, this is amazing. Like they spilled and they pulled and they fought and they're all walking around with bruises. Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, I have such a loud house. Baruch Hashem. And it works, it's magical. And the more you contemplate and the more you think about your blessings, I'm telling you, I got my house painted, my apartment. Okay, so I'm so excited because it was so dirty, dark and whatever. So I'm like, we'll paint it, I'm so excited. And I said, let me just enjoy it. I literally enjoyed it for like about 3-4 hours until my kids came home. And the first beautiful paintings that they put on it, I was like, unbelievable. I said, Baruch Hashem. Baruch Hashem, I have kids that are drawing on the walls and I'm putting so many nice things on the wall, right? This one came with the bike and just put the bike against the wall. Like, they just made like, Baruch Hashem, I have a healthy child that actually bikes. Baruch Hashem. You know, Baruch Hashem, I have a child that's not autistic that draws on the walls. I mean, I'm not saying it's okay, I try to distract them, but Baruch Hashem, I have this. There's so many parents that are struggling with so many different issues that would trade places with me. They'll be so happy to have their child get up and draw on the walls or spill a bottle. They can't even hold the bottle, Chas Shalom, right? Lalinu. So if you count your blessings, your perception will be so different. You'll be like, wow, like, I'm happy. And then, you know what, I always tell myself, I was talking to my husband, I said, you know, we have to really cherish these moments because very soon our kids are going to be in shidduchim and I'm not going to have them all in the house and it's going to be quiet and boring. And like my parents said, like, it's so boring, like, nobody comes, like, we're just alone. I said, you know, it's going to hit us also. So we really, really have to take advantage of all the noise and all the balagan and all the fights and all the drums and all the bruises. We have to really enjoy the moment. It's such a blessing. It's such a, and when you see it that way, your anger goes down.
Can I say something? Yes, please.
So with the coloring on the walls,
We triggered me.
yeah, it did. And you actually triggered me to something really like I could cry right now. Like my poor kid, like I didn't yell at him. He colored, like he's like always in his own little world, doing his own little thing, and like no one really bothers him, and like I trust him, you know, like that type of kid. And all of a sudden, lately, he's just coloring, drawing pictures and coloring because he can't find paper. So like I asked me, you know, now he asked me, so I was like, oh my God, who colored? And he's like, and I know it's him, so I was like, it's so beautiful. Like I saw how scared he got because I said, oh my God, who colored? That I was like, it's not worth it to just destroy him. So I'm always put into this test when you have kids back to back. This is like panic mode. Oh my gosh, I can't do this, right? So from my experience, I learned a lot. Like, wow, I wasn't perfect raising them, and I made a lot of mistakes, and I'm doing tshuva for it, and they see it, and they respect me for it, for my mistakes, and that I'm not doing that, making them again. They actually respect me, thank God. And I usually try to take a nap before they come home. Sometimes it doesn't happen, so I'll have to order out, or I'll make something light like chicken nuggets, or I don't know, pizza, something simple, nothing crazy to make me more stressed out. It's not worth making such a lavish dinner that they won't even eat, and then you get more mad, you know? So today I was so exhausted, I planned the whole Shabbaton, whatever. Hi girls. So I was so exhausted, like I couldn't move. And my kids, they're so happy to see me, and I'm like, you know, like I need to sleep, like please don't be like loud and whatever, you know? And I'm like, okay, I'll read them the book, I'll do this for them, because I really did miss them. So then I'm like to my husband, what's gonna be for dinner? You wanna like make steaks or something, you know? And he's like, okay, I don't know, let's see, because he's also tired, you know? He also joined the Shabbaton, so like we're both exhausted. So I was like, ask the kids what they want to eat, because for me, they're gonna never answer. So he's like, what do you guys want to eat? They're like, chicken nuggets. I was like, wow, you're always asking them what they want to eat for dinner. Like, make your life easier. Who says you have to make them like schnitzels, like frying, or like make a soup, noodle soup, they like it. Put music, like fun music or relaxing music to keep your body like in tune, not to get like cuckoo, you know? I'll tell you something, what I'm going through right now, oh my God. I could also lose my marbles with this. One kid makes number 2 in the underwear every single day for the last I don't know how many months, okay? I have to clean that. Then I have Baruch Hashem. I'm not complaining. It's just like it's like every day, right? So how do you stay sane? So I always say like, where do we make poopy? In the toilet. So why do you poop in your underwear? I don't know. And we go through this every day, and it's like it's a lot, you know. And like I realized like okay, they are really scared. Like I can't force one of the kids to like, you know, you can't force them. You're slowly.
morning in the garshon.
No, she makes number one in the potty, but number two she can't. So I realized like you can't force them. You can. You have to just like encourage, and like it's annoying, yes, for me to change that and then wash the underwear. It's like in the underwear, not in the pull-up. Then you have another one in the pull-up, and he's like holding himself for 5 hours. I'm like, let it out, and then you're dealing with this, and then that one, and then this one fighting, and I'm just like, you know. So what helps me is I let my son play with the music. He changes the music. He's like this, little DJ in the house. He's happy. I'm like, okay, he's happy. This one is making like building magnet tiles or Legos, and then the other two are having their moments that I have to take care of, right? So instead of getting annoyed, like, oh, I have to change her whole outfit or like I used to, I said, now we're gonna shower, and she hates it. I said, so then don't make number two in your underwear, and I don't have to shower you every day like this, you know, routine. But like I thank her for not doing it in school. You know, it's like, Baruch Hashem, at least she does it at home. But everyone has something in their house. You just have to think like, what can I do to make my life easier? So I try to nap. This past month I didn't have this opportunity, this privilege to nap. Hopefully I'll get back into my routine. You know, prepare your dinners in advance. Think light, small, easy that they like. Make a list with your kids. Show them a cookbook. What do you like to eat? In my case, it's nothing, but chicken nuggets sometimes. It happens. Or like one day they'll love chalet forever, and then you make chalet, I don't want it. You know, like it happens. It's okay. Have a backup in the freezer. They like pizza. You know, like who says it has to always be super, super duper healthy? Yeah, have your, you know, vegetables cut up for them or fruits, whatever. But like, let's be real, we can't kill ourselves. We have to take care of everything, right? So you should give yourself a pat on the back. And even if you do have your mess ups, as long as you know in your heart that's not who you want to be, and you want to be like someone else, like a big Rebbetzin or someone like Rachli Meinu, like we don't even know they were their kids, right? Hopefully they were good, but we don't know. We really don't know. And it's hard to raise them. So don't think like you're doing something terrible and you lash out and you get upset. Obviously it's wrong, but don't continue the behavior. Read books on it. I'm a visual learner, so when I watch a video of when a parent rebukes the child and I see the child's face, that child's face will always be in my mind when I want to do that. There's moments where you should rebuke your child and there's moments when you shouldn't, right? So we have to pick and choose when we want to rebuke. And also, don't be too hard on yourselves. The music really helps and changes the mood in the home. Even keep it in the kitchen, light music. You get zachmat with them, go to the kitchen, listen to your music, and say thank you Hashem. It could be worse. I have to learn to enjoy my challenges. It's not really suffering unless you choose that it's suffering, right? It's just a challenge, it's a test, it's an obstacle, and I could overcome it. So B'ezrat Hashem, I give us a bracha, including myself, that we always have the strength to raise our children the right way.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So whenever we try to raise our daughters and sons to tzniut, to the way of Torah, and to do musar, but okay, so we did tshuva, right? But a lot of family members are not, let's say, right? And then
Can you
there's
speak up, please?
yes, and then there's a lot of let's say mixed parties or certain family member, they're not really dressing according to the Jewish law or the Shabbat or certain halachot that you know they're not according to God's plan, and the girls see that, the boys see that. It's kind of like you don't offend or talk bad about whoever it is in the family, and you don't want to attend a certain party. What would be the right approach to educate the kids in the proper way, not to talk lashon hara or not to do chilul Hashem in a way?
Beautiful question.
question is, how do you navigate your family who's not so religious and possibly dressed inappropriately or doing inappropriate things or going to their parties or not going to their parties? So it's a very hard place to be. You're between a wall and a rock in a sense. Like, you're trying to do the right thing, you're trying not to hurt them, but at the same time you have your own standards to follow. So I think that it depends on your kid's age, really, but it's very important to teach your children that, number one, what's right, what's wrong, but at the same time that not everyone's choosing to be bad. This is how they were raised. This is what they grew up with. They don't know better. And what they're doing doesn't mean it's correct, and we don't need to learn from it, but at the same time, we don't need to judge them necessarily for it and look down and speak down. Now, that doesn't mean that you bring your children to places that there will be exposure that they shouldn't have. So, like, let's say it's a wedding of a family member. And the chuppah, usually it's fine, right? Okay, some people will dress a certain way. So I remember it was my cousin's wedding, and we asked the Rav, what should we do? So he said, make sure you come with your whole family, and everyone's dressed beautifully, and you give the envelope, and you show them you really respect them, and politely just decline that you cannot stay, but as long as you give the envelope, you're fine, that's the halacha right there. And tell your children that we're here because we are their part of the simcha, and then once the chuppah was over, it's time to go home. And then let's say it was my brother's wedding, where it's not so simple. I'm a woman, maybe I could see some certain things, but my husband can't, my kids can't. So after that wedding, this was my own personal, answer that my Rav gave me. In that situation, we were told that after the chuppah, my husband should go home, and I'm allowed to stay. Well, with my kids, he was supposed to go home, and I was allowed to stay because it was my brother. So that was in my own situation. My kids were very upset. Huh? Everyone has to ask their own Rav and in their own situation. And I thought this answer applies for my cousin also. And the rabbi told me, no, that's your cousin. It doesn't apply anymore in your cousin situation. You have to ask in every situation. So they went home. They were very upset about it. Why do we have to go home? Blah, blah, blah. And we had to explain this to them ahead of time. So preventative measures help a lot, where you do explain to them that there's going to be things that are not appropriate, it's things we don't look at. And it gets very difficult, especially once your boys start to get older. There are things where maybe your daughter would be okay going, but now your sons can no longer go because they cannot look at certain things. Maybe the girls are okay in your, whatever situation. There's a lot of communication, a lot of open communication, and just guidance. And also, you have to have a rabbi. That's the most important thing, because we're biased. We assume some things are totally not okay, but if you ask the question, the rabbi will tell you, okay, this and this should be done, how you should do it, and you'll be shocked sometimes where you assume it's not allowed, but for this specific issue, for the peace of the family, the rabbi tells you should do this and this and this, and then that's it. Problem's over. You know what you're doing is correct. It's not your opinion. The rabbi told you it's fine, and there's nothing to feel guilty about. So it's so important to make that relationship and to ask questions and to have that connection. So you can't assume your own answer. You should always have someone that will guide you.
Okay, so we're gonna.
Can I just?
Yeah, you can answer. I actually really liked what you said, and I just like to add to what Rebbetzin said. That is that what I find a major struggle in Baal Tshuva, that is that we don't know how to please everyone. Here we're trying to raise a new generation of kids that will go on the path of Torah mitzvot, but on the other hand, we have family that we need to sort of please and make sure that we don't hurt their feelings and we don't step on them. And like Rebbetzin Maximum said, every case is specific, and we need to ask a shaila, especially when it comes to weddings and bar mitzvahs and whatever, and so on and so forth. But what I find the most difficult aspect of many Baal Tshuvas, and that is to sort of uproot the habits and the social gatherings that they grew up with. And there's certain people, including family, that are just a big no-no. A big no-no. It's not appropriate, just because we're cousins, to mingle and to spend quality time in their presence when we know fully well that those cousins or those mothers don't have the same standards. They don't share the same values as you, right? So that's when it becomes very tricky. And I feel that the more we, if we'll become honest and objective, I had people who asked Rabbanim, they asked rabbis only what they wanted to hear. They only tell the rabbis part of the story to get an okay, but the rabbi, I don't mean to say you, but I'm just saying I've dealt with people that they wanna, let's say, go to a certain place, so they'll paint a certain picture just to get an okay, and then say, the rabbi okayed it. Well, and then when I come into picture, and I'm like, listen, did you say this from this angle and from this perspective? No, like, sort of those voices are quieted down, right? So when we ask a shayla, when we ask a question, we need to be honest with our questions. What are we asking? Are we asking the question for what it is, from all angles, from different perspective, like the way it's supposed to be, or just like a very bias, like just to get an okay to shut everyone's mouth, you know? And another thing I would say is that on the journey of becoming from, like I was talking to someone, and she said, I'm a big believer that so long you take your kids to any relative with any hashkafa, with any mindset, with any value, and then you come home and you preach to them that that's not what we do. And I said, okay. And she's like, that's what I do. And I said, how old are your kids? Okay, they're little. I said, wait till they become teenagers. Because this nonsense doesn't work. You can't expose them to wrong values and be like, don't do that, we don't do this, we don't follow this. You don't do that. It's not gonna work. Kids observe and they will follow that path. Your little talk is not gonna prevent them. And how do we know this? We know this from Moshe Rabbeinu, right? Moshe Rabbeinu and Yitro, they had an argument. So Yitro said, the first child you want to marry my daughter Tzipora, the first child that you'll have, I'll expose him to the world. And let him choose the path of Hashem. Let him come to it himself like I came. That was the agreement, and that's what Moshe agreed to. And that's exactly what Yitro did. He actually took his son and he said, I'm going to introduce him to all the avodah zarahs, to all the idols. And let him come to Hashem like I did himself. Did that go well? No. Right? It did not go well for Moshe, right? Because you cannot expose your kids to all the wrong values, to all the wrong people, and to all the wrong relatives, and then expect that your little talk and say, that's not what we're hold by, is going to be magical and just change everything. So that's something that we need to be brutally honest. At what cost do we want to have that type of relationship? And of course, like the Rebbetzin said, we should always ask a shayla, and when we ask a question, we should ask an honest question, not what we want to hear. And I wish everyone a chatzlacha. Thank you so much for having us. It was such an honor and privilege to be here and to learn with all of you. Thank you so much, ladies, for coming out, and I really, really enjoyed it. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. We really enjoyed all your words. So everyone could head downstairs to the vendors. They're all waiting for you guys. If anyone has any personal questions, I'm sure the Rebbetzins will lovely answer them.
No? Huh? You just stop recording. Stop. Just no. Right there, the white. Yeah.